What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Life of the Lost. I'm Sam.
And I'm Megan.
And this week's episode is sponsored by Brown Lab Media. Brown Lab Media is a creative community helping to promote and create original content, personal brands, businesses, or anything media related by people of color. So if you have a chance, feel free to check them out. The link is www.brownlabmedia.com. All right, moving on to this week's episode.
And I think we're going to start off with talking about a little bit of a transition. If you are looking at the podcast right now, or if you're watching the YouTube video, you'll see a little bit of a new logo. We're taking the adoption kind of part out of it. Although it's a part of our life and we'll totally keep talking about it, we're not advocates. And I've been kind of realizing when I'm looking at social media or YouTube or anything, there are advocates out there, and they're really standing up for their rights, laws, things like that. And a lot of people have been telling us, like, tell the other side of adoption. You're telling the positive side. And I just feel like we don't have to. I feel like this is kind of like part of our story, and we're going to just take it as it is and just keep talking about the things we kind of want to talk about without having to worry about more of a label on it.
Yeah, it's ingrained in us. We can't not talk about adoption, because if you root every interest, everything that makes us us, kind of all stems from our origin, and our origin is that we were adopted and that we just live in two different bubbles, one with our parents, because our parents don't share the same ethnicity and struggle that we kind of come from, in the sense of both our parents are white and we're brown, and in America it's just treated differently because they're just different cultures, but yet we don't feel it inside because we weren't raised, in our culture. We were raised in their culture. But yet when it comes to outsiders who are white, they just don't necessarily view us like our family does.
Yeah.
So that's why we're always, to root it all back, it's always ingrained in our life, no matter what. So We're technically still talking about it without talking about it. So
yeah, we just don't want to kind of make it apparent that we're advocates for it or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, this is kind of just an adventure of Soupe, like our apparel brand, and kind of the daily, like what we want to talk about. And I think it's really exciting to kind of have a platform to be able to look back on, when we're a little bit older, or our kids or somebody can look back on it and just say like, wow, like they're talking about this, or this is kind of what was going on in this part of their life, and just things like that.
Yeah. It's be nice. Keep our records.
Sorry. Yes. And kind of moving on from that, just kind of wanting to talk about some life updates. And it was about a week ago today that I got this weird message request in my inbox in Facebook. So check your message request, because sometimes, there's some weird messages in there. And I thought it was kind of a joke, but somebody was asking me about my cousin who died, and I had no idea what was going on. Like I said, I thought it was a joke, and I had double checked, and I'd called my mom, and she called the police department of where he lives and found out that it was true. Had he died, and they found his body the day before, and he had probably been dead for a few days before that. And just, the situations surrounding that's kind of what's been going on. Just thinking a little bit more about death lately, and thinking about him and where he's at, and all of these things that are kind of surrounding it. And, kind of leading up to this too, like last night I had a really weird dream, and it was super graphic, and I think my whole life I've had like really weird, like disturbing, like graphic dreams, and I don't know where that comes from, but my mom always used to say it's like scary movies that you've been watching, but I guess we have been watching kind of some scary movies, so maybe it kind of rooted from that. But this all relates. Let me relate it. Last night I was in this kind of dungeon. I woke up in this dungeon, and it was really creepy. It was kind of like somebody's basement. There was bricks everywhere. There was this really creepy elevator, and there was this room, and it was kind of a caged room, and there was kids in it, and people would come down and pick a kid. Like 3 men would come down and pick a kid at a time. I don't know what they were going to do with them. They were just going to take them one by one, and it was horrible. And as these 3 men came down, they didn't know I was down there, and all I had on me was a steak knife, and one of the men was my cousin. And I just looked at him, and I was like, why? Like, why you? Why are you coming down here? like, don't do this. Like, you're better than this. And he didn't say a word to me. So they took one of the kids and I went after him. My cousin's like almost 7 foot. So there's me who's 4'11". There's no way. There's no match, right? And I'm taking the steak knife to his side and it's not doing anything. It's barely puncturing him. And I'm trying so hard to just kind of stab him. But it's like, how do you stab somebody that you love, you know? So it was just it was very conflicting. And they were taking this child away in this elevator, and only once they got in the elevator, and I was in the elevator too, did they let me know that they're not going to do anything bad. They're trying to save. They're on the other side of this. You know, they're kind of, it's like an inside job. They're making it look like it's something horrible, but they're really helping out. And it was really creepy. And as
is it like one of those quintessential scenes in a movie where somebody's trying to do the right thing only for the person to be like, yo, be quiet.
Yeah.
You're ruining our like 3-year sting operation that we've been implanted in here.
Yeah, kind of. But what was even creepier is we're going up this elevator, and it was old, but it was like see-through, right? It was glass all the way around. Oh my gosh. I felt like it was like, you know, the underlayer of like the Ninja Turtles, you know, in the sewer kind of thing. That's kind of what it reminded me of. But it was glass. As we're going up, this character is going down, and it was like an evil ninja turtle. It was just really creepy, and he started like humming, and then he started singing some really creepy tune about like it's kind of like at an end of a movie where something good's happening, but they're about to do a sequel, right? So they have to bring it back down. And that's what was happening. This guy was going back down to where the kids were as we're going up, trying to save the day. And it was just horrific, and I woke up. And it just kind of reminded me of kind of like comebacks, making a comeback, maybe having to do the wrong thing for a little bit, or not really realizing it, or maybe you do realize it, and trying to make a comeback from that. And the reason I guess I'm talking a little bit about that is because that's kind of how I viewed my cousin growing up. And he lived with us for a while, and so he would take, you know, my brother to hockey practice, take us here and there. He had a car. He was a little bit older than us, so he was able to do that, and he was hanging around, and it's nice. And, you know, you look up to cousins, you look up to family members, and then they get a bit older, and you get a bit older, and you kind of start seeing, you know, maybe some flaws or maybe some things that are going on in their life that you never really knew about. And, you know, kind of going back to his death, and he died a really sad death. He was by himself. He was surrounded by a lot of negative things, and I think he really got into his head. And it's kind of scary how you can get into your head and how that can ultimately kill you. And I guess that's been on my mind a lot.
I don't know, since you, like, you know, knew and found out about your cousin's death, I guess simultaneously too, like, I've been also like thinking about it as well, like on, you know, you kind of like started that, and then I guess, you know, I stream the Call of Duty game, the Warzone. It's really cool. But
every Tuesday night live.
Yeah, every Tuesday night live. So if you have you have a free chance, please feel free and check it out. The link will be down below. But I was also thinking about how easily, you know, I'm able to get killed and come back, you know, and just like how grateful and how not understanding I am about that very very non-important like part of a game, you know, the ability to just like, you know, throw yourself out there and then get killed and then be able to come back. And if you can't come back, then you just, you know, die and your team dies, and then you ended up starting a new game. But I was thinking, like, I kept having parallels where I think about my life, and I'm like, yo, this is all you get. You know, you can't just come back from this. Mm-hmm. And it just it's scary. I don't know what connections I'm connecting in my mind to like to feel like precious, even more precious about the life that I have. Maybe having the ability to just spend lives every day on a game. I don't know, as unrelatable as those two things are, they make my life feel like that much more like precious and that much more like even vulnerable, weak to a certain extent, where like at any day, you know, you could die and now that's it, you know, that's all she wrote.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like what is that? What does that even kind of like honestly, like speaking about your cousin, like what does that even feel like? You know, that last seconds, you know, where you know, it's ending, and like, you know, and you're very scared. You're maybe, I don't know, panicking. I don't know, and all of a sudden, darkness. You know, you feel pain until you don't feel pain anymore, and that's just weird. I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but
No,
you
I
know,
think
it's
it's
just
something important to talk about and to think about, because I think that death is kind of written off as something that, you know, it happens and then people move on. You know, maybe if it doesn't happen to you, you hear about it, right? Somebody you know died, and then, you know, it is what it is. But what happens, and I guess I'm specifically thinking about my grandma, right? Not that I like moved on or anything, but I think about the people it affected the most. And I think about my grandpa. He's still really struggling. He's still really struggling every single day. And I think that on the outside, you know, you hear it, anybody even listening to this, you can think about somebody who died. And maybe it was recently, maybe it was a few years ago, and you can kind of like snap out of it because it's not happening. But I think we can think about the people who it really does affect. And those are the people who have to kind of live with it and maybe get to understand how precious life really is. And then us kind of on the other side, you know, with a video game, it's kind of, I guess, relating it back to how precious it is, and to think about, you know, when it does happen to you, when you do kind of find out that, you know, somebody who died, it's a really eerie feeling. And I think we need to talk about it more, because I think that once you fully understand how quick this goes, only then can you understand.
I mean, it's a weird principle because we're all dying. We're all, you know, nobody can live forever. And because nobody can live forever, nobody's immune to it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's scary. It's scary because it's like, when you think about it, it's like, why try? Why try and do anything with your life if you know in the end you're going to die? And that's actually a point of like interest that I've been really focusing on with like my music, is like trying to convey the opposite side, or like the conclusion to that question, which is like, you try because it matters. I don't know if it's a good matter or a bad matter. It just matters. It matters to survive, even though, but that's like the human spirit. That's humanity, right? Because an ape or any kind of creature doesn't think that it's going to die. So because when it's born, it just does its duties. It does what it's supposed to do. It does what it's bred to do, and then it dies. And the same can be said about, the only difference between humans and them is that we have the ability to think and conceptualize our thought, who we are, and understand who we are. But with that can breed greatness, but it can also, like, you know, set you up for failure, in a sense where it's just like, why even try, right? Because the truth is that, you know, you're gonna die, and none of this really matters. So why even like try and like do anything with your life? But that's like the reasons behind, like, getting more to your primitive side and getting more to the humanistic side, which is, you try, even though you're losing, you still try. You still, like, you know, you walk into battle knowing you're gonna die, but you're still gonna give it your all. And what the meaning behind that, I don't honestly know. It's probably some like innate human characteristic that we even got passed down between, you know, Neanderthals and even before us, to create that need to survive. Maybe that's just a need that all living things have, is that will to survive, even though you know that you're gonna die. It's the cycle of life that we're aware of subconsciously, that only humans can understand, because only we can think about these in-depth thoughts and you know, think about it philosophically.
Yeah. And kind of what you're going to do with that, because on the other side of that is, you know, knowing that your day will come. What do you do with that? And then I think you have two options, right? You can go into like this deep, dark depression because I think when I was a kid, when I first kind of started realizing about death, and I know you can relate to this too, you really panic. You're really like, wait, wait, no, wait, you're older than me, so does that mean you're going to go before me? And so when I heard that with my mom or my dad or anybody older than me, it just kind of, I did not want to think about it. It was so bad that I couldn't even step on ants because that was a mom or a sister or a cousin or a brother or whatever to somebody. I was having such a hard time kind of ending a bug's life because I didn't want somebody to end my mom's life or my dad's life. And
So
it was
interesting how you think about it like that.
yeah, and sometimes I still do. I'm like, no, like don't. Maybe not with mice, but
I know, but like the correlation, because in my mind when I was a kid, I didn't really care about anybody else. I don't like anyone else can die, right? I don't care, like, but just not my mom. Just don't kill my mom. So it's interesting. You're like making the correlation between that somebody's mom and dad. Like I could care less. I only care about my mom. Like that was it. Like I don't like. I'll kill it. Unintentionally kill like ants or whatever. But like it's just interesting. But yeah, no, like I too was very paralyzed. I couldn't leave the couch. Is weird to say, but I couldn't leave the couch for like a week when I realized my mom was gonna die one day, and I didn't want anything. I didn't want my mom to leave anywhere. I would literally remember just crying, just being like, please don't leave. Didn't matter where she went, to the store, to work. I think she had to stay home a week because I couldn't. I don't know. I was having like this crazy like psychological breakdown, like serious. And I was like, what, like 7? I like could not
trying to
conceptualize, can process it.
Yeah. I mean, even until recently, I've had a hard time kind of thinking about it and understanding it and knowing that, like, where you go and things like that. I'm not really a religious person. I do believe there's a higher power. I don't necessarily know exactly where we're going. I've been told growing up, you go to heaven, everything's better. You get to see people who you've lost, things like that. And I guess when people around me do die, that's where I hope that they do go. I hope that they're around the people who they did lose and the people that they love and the people that they miss. And there's a comfort in that. And so I think going back to my cousin dying, he lost his mom and his dad at a pretty young age. And it's really affected him his entire life. I think anytime you have a conversation with him, that will kind of come up. And he was really angry about it. And I think... Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I just had a like an interesting thought process while you were saying that.
Yeah.
And I think that too. I would like to think that, but I hope that they don't. I hope that they don't see the people that they love. I hope that when they die and when people die, they finally find peace. There is no resolution. It's only peace. And the peace is that you have no worries anymore. All the guilt, all the love that you might have wanted to see your mom and dad one day, it's gone. Everything is gone. And that is the most beautiful thing ever. Because therefore, it's not like you go up to heaven knowing that, oh, wow, I get to see my mom and dad again. That already breeds potential worry, potential like struggle, potential all of these things. So I guess I would love the idea where, when you die, it's just literally like every inch of stress, every inch of
like
pain,
being
every inch
alone,
of hurting.
Like where would you be?
You're nothing.
I guess that's
your
and that's why
version is just. But that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You can't understand it because you have your thought process, my thought process. I can't understand it either.
Yeah.
It's limited to what the actuality of nothing is.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing because we are tethered in the living. And in the living, there's worry, there's anxious, there's anxiety of where I'm gonna go, who's gonna take care of X, Y, and Z when I'm gone. But the fact is, when you're actually gone, you're just finally at peace. Like what I'm trying to say is like the peace is that you literally check out. Like there's no like, oh, I'm at peace now. I can just sit in nothing. No, like you are nothing. Like there is nothing. Like your existence completely fades. And obviously, like if you believe in reincarnation, yes, it starts over.
Yeah.
But you're a clean slate. You don't remember anything prior to your life before. Maybe you do when you're a kid. Like that's why they have like these weird sayings where like like he was talking about these little kids, like they think about their life prior. But
or they talk about it.
In that case, I understand like in that retrospect of like reincarnation, because I think that some of that could be potentially true, because I think I'm not like no scientist or nothing, but like the logic behind energy and energy like always, and things in the universe always needing to be repurposed. I think that can work. you know, like a energy in the soul, whatever the soul is. Obviously, I don't think science has figured out what that is, but I believe that, like, you know, the Buddhists and the reincarnation people who believe that, I think they have some merit. And I think that, you know, things do recycle, things get repurposed, like I said, right? You can't destroy any kind of thing in this tangible world, and it's gone. It's not gone. It's just in a different form. You can burn something, but those particles, they just go up into the air and it's somewhere. Yeah. You know, it's not like completely destroyed. So yeah, sorry. But
well, I would still like to believe that. That when you really go somewhere, like you
think about the whole scenario of that, right? So let's think
about
that. But
that's the problem. That's like that's where it stops, right? I guess the reason I can catch myself when I talk about things like that and I can understand you is because it just stops there, right? I don't understand. I don't even try to think about what happens after that. When my cousin died, I just thought, okay, he's with his mom and dad and my grandma and anybody else he's lost. And I didn't think of what happens after that, because what happens after that is that another life that you're living somewhere else, you know. It just stops right there, because then we can go into, okay, so are there laws in heaven? Are there cars? Are there houses? Where do you go? How long do you stay? You know, and I think that that's kind of why.
You get kicked out.
Yeah, and I think that's why I stop myself, and why I do listen to other things. You know, like things like you. I'm not going to just say like, no, I don't believe that. It's just kind of, it's a comfort. There's just comfort in wanting to believe that they're with the people that they love, and not knowing and being able to have all of these thoughts about it and maybe guesses about it is so scary.
But maybe that's why people believe in religion, right? Like the comfort of knowing what to do, right? Yeah, the rule books of knowing, like, oh, because God said I shouldn't, you know, steal, I'm not going to steal. Yeah. And whether or not, you know, that religion keeps you from doing something bad, like regardless of whether you feel it's bad or not, like the point is that it's there to kind of keep you a model person, in general. And like that, right? For somebody who doesn't know, like they pivot on religion to give them the answers, like, oh, when they die they're going to go to heaven, right? Not maybe the cold hard truth, which is maybe not that cold or hard if you really think about it, because when somebody like passes on, and there's no more pain, there's no more suffering, you know, there's just that part of their life, or that part of their existence just ends. And, you know, for all you know, your cousin is born somewhere else, somewhere in some other part of the world that he has no idea who he is, his past life, but he's just, you know, in his mom's arms right now, just starting his new life again.
Yeah, which would be interesting. And it was kind of interesting too when I realized that it was true, when we got back the news that it was confirmed. I've never done this before, but I looked up and I just started talking to him, and I just started crying, and I was just very I was angry based on the situation of how he died. And, you know, maybe one day I'll get into that. Right now there's a lot of family disputes and drama behind that shouldn't be happening. And it's pretty sad, but it is. And I don't trust somebody to not come after me for speaking about it, which is pretty damn sad too. But nevertheless, I was looking up and I was talking to him, and it was an interesting feeling, because like I said, it's not like I'm very religious or anything, but I swear he was there. I swear I was talking to him. And I feel like sometimes when I'm working, and sometimes I can just like look up and he's there, and I'm talking to him, and it's so, I don't know how to explain how it feels, because I see it in movies, you know, and they're like, I know you're still here with me, blah, blah, blah. And it seems so cheesy, but it's not. And I think I've had so many long conversations with him. You know, he's a very deep person. And I think, I don't know. I don't know if he is still there, if I'm talking to him, if he was, I don't know. Because part of me was thinking, okay, so maybe he was just like on his transition to wherever he was, which is why you were able to talk to him. But when you think about it, I had found out on a Tuesday, and he had been dead for a few days. Not that I know how long it takes a transition to go anywhere, to become whatever it is after you die. I have no idea. But I guess it was just a really interesting feeling. And I still kind of feel like I could look up and talk to him. Might not be the same exact way, but I think a lot, it really just put a different perspective, I guess, on death to me, because I've never felt that before.
Yeah. And I guess it, it will continue to do that, because I guess our views on it are always changing. And yeah, it's just interesting, just thinking about it, and I'm exploring that topic. I want to know. I want to know what happens. What?
I don't know. I don't really like this one.
Why?
Because it just doesn't feel like I'm too afraid to talk about it.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
I think it was really good. You're too afraid to talk about
the more
relatable, specific aspect of death to you. That's what you're too afraid to talk about.
The overall feeling, I guess, of it, both sides. Because I feel like I'm just being very vague in what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think that it's important to take anything that you are feeling too uncomfortable of talking about. Like for me, you obviously know my uncomfortable areas of talking, but I always get through it. I always just find a way to talk about it without talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important to do, because if you think about it, like, these times that we're able to sit down and have a cast is, not, the timing is important. So the importance of getting one done and getting one complete, regardless of how you feel about it, to a certain extent, right? Because if you understand that, then you'll obviously know how to wiggle your way around these difficult areas that you don't want to talk about. I don't know what you want to do.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just having a hard time, like, understanding a few things, like, within this in general, and I'm having a hard time, because of that, I'm having a hard time talk about it.
Like, what are you not understanding?
Just, like, I'm just gonna start crying, so I don't really, like, just, like, why it happens.
Why people die. Goes back to the root of everything. If somebody doesn't die, where's the joy? Where's the love? Where's the passion? Knowing that no one's gonna die. That's the one argument I believe that, like, if you want to get, like, fantasy wise, like, vampires, they always complain,
about living too long.
You have the youth, you have the passion, you have the fire. I have long forgotten what that felt like. And it's weird, right? Knowing that,
if you were alive forever, then it wouldn't mean as much. Life wouldn't.
It wouldn't
right?
mean anything.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think it would mean that,
Yeah.
And it gives you a formula to maximize your time, to love the people that you want to love. It's that wrench that's, I think, thrown into the life, in everything, right? That puts incentive and gives people a reason to go. Because if I give you a timeline to get something done, if I give you a task to get something done, but I don't give you a timeline, how would you really know when to really finish
true.
it?
You wouldn't need to know, even, because if you had forever to work on it, then
Take forever.
You would never. Yeah, you have no incentive, like you said, to really start.
So I guess maybe that's breaking it all down. That's why people die. That's why things get recycled. Everything has a shelf life, and it is scary. It is very scary. How you feel and how you're looking right now is how I feel when I think about that. You remember that in the show where it's like, I'm very upset about this. Remember, she's like crying, and he's like, "How are you not? I'm very disturbed by this.
Yeah, maybe I just like.
It's really, really hard pill to swallow. Like, I can't even swallow. I'm like, honestly, like when I say it, I don't register it. It's one of the things I can't even register because of the
But
minute.
that's the problem is like when I do register it, when I finally register it, it's just like, fuck.
I know.
It's
The reason.
it's like half of a fear, half of it's a fear, and half of it's just like, Jesus. I was just gonna say like a fear. It's just but it's sadness. Half of it's a fear and half of it's sadness, just based on the unknown, right? Based on the unknown, but then just based on the sadness of not being able to share these things with other people that you want to like tell them so bad. But it's just such a frustrating thing because if my grandma didn't die, I wouldn't become as close as I am right now with my grandpa. And if my cousin didn't die, the same thing. You know, I'm just getting so close with my grandpa and I'm just learning so much about his life and so much about like my life and just trying to understand things a little bit more. And it's like so frustrating. It's so frustrating that I couldn't do that when they were both alive. It's just the stupid, like, not stupid. It's just, of course, the one day I never wear makeup. The one day I decide, like, to wear makeup. And my eyes look like raccoons.
No. That was the one thought that I had when Laka got stuck in the chair. God. That's what I thought about. Him dying. And that's why I was so scared. And that's why I don't know if you felt it in my message, but I was very, very like disturbed by it because it was like a huge like gut check, like death, like cut me in my rib cage. And I'm just
I was so scared because I thought if he's about to die right now, then am I going to tell you and make you come home from work? Or do I just wait until you come home from work and let you know? Because I know work is really stressful and I know they really need you there. It's a very conflicting thing, right? So, but it was, his head got stuck in the little chair and I don't know how he got in there.
And when I came home and I saw that he was okay.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was, you know, just show him affection, show him love, just be in the moment with him.
Yeah.
Because the minute that happened, all of these feelings that came back, like, dang, like, why was I so angry at him for doing X, Y, and Z? Why? Like, you shouldn't, like, look at him, like, now he might be gone, and all these things are, you know, you're gonna live with the regret. So I'm just like, yo, not today. You know, if he survives, you know, I'm going to come home and I'm going to show him how I truly feel about him.
Yeah. I just kind of going on that show that we were watching, you know, and this woman's dying and they're like, you can't let her die because she still need to get even with her.
And that's why that poem means so much to me. The poem, the rage against the dying of the light is that, you know, the dying is Laka's dying.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to love him and I'm still going to be there every day.
Yeah.
Even though I'm accepting that he's going to die.
Yeah.
It's that innate human drive, that will to, even when everybody's dying in front of you, you're still going to fight for life. You're not going to kill yourself. You're going to last as long as you physically can until your time is up. But until that very instant that you take your last breath, you're going to keep on fighting. And you don't know why you're fighting. But it's like that show.
It's literally,
they're choosing life.
What is it called? Now that we're still talking. What is it called?
What?
The show?
The evil, the what? It's like two words. Sweet Home.
Sweet Home.
Yes.
It's kind of like your typical zombie movie, right? But it's not a zombie movie. It's it's like your inner thoughts are what kind of become the disease. And if you kind of, how would you explain it?
If you give in to
Yeah.
them, you'll die and you'll take on the curse, I think. But if you fight and hold on somehow to life, and the will to live, the will to survive, I think you have a fighting chance of beating whatever it is that's in your mind, trying to convince you to give in to, I guess, your desires, your fears, right?
Because you ultimately turn into that.
What you fear. Yeah.
Or your biggest desire, which was weird because there was an example would be there was this guy and he was obsessed with this toupee. He was a real asshole. He was bullying, he was beating his wife, he was horrible. And when he died, he came back to life or whatever it was. He came back as hair. It was disgusting. And that's what he wanted his whole life, right? Is more hair. It was just this desire. And I guess that kind of goes back to, I was thinking about the amount of time you have to survive, and it's 14 days. And it's about 14 to 21 days for humans to develop new habits. And I was just thinking if that has to do with it. Ultimately,
Probably does.
it's something in the inside of what we've seen so far. I mean, we haven't finished the show, but what we've seen so far is inside of this boy's head, it's like himself telling himself to give up, to give in, to finally kill himself. And it's something that he'd struggled with. And I just think it's kind of something that a lot of people can relate to as well, is that inner voice, telling you kind of what to do. You had a bad day. This is an example for me. You had a bad day. Just go wrap up. Just go wrap up in a blanket and order your Chinese food. Find a funny movie you've seen. And just call it a day. Don't worry about it. Or, I've been having a lot of anxiety lately, and that self-talk is very scary in itself. And just thinking about how that show really is really important, and I can really relate with it lately, and just the self-talk, I suppose.
Yeah. No.
I feel like you can dig yourself into holes, and I think kind of relating it all back to death is sometimes we get to choose, whether it's drugs that we take, whether it's other horrible habits, we get to choose.
The good habits or the bad habits.
If you want to die or if you want to live in some aspect, right?
But and even good habits, right? Like, doing drugs
or even eating.
Well, yeah.
Could be considered like a bad habit.
Eating is a bad habit. I definitely used to do that too. That was my bad habit when I was a kid. I would kind of eat my feelings away, and it was bad.
Yeah.
That feeling of consuming that I don't know that what, how do you, like, the good hormones that, like, with the feel good.
That's just kind of
feeling.
similar to like other habits too, right? People do it because they feel good, or the dopamine.
Smoking. Yes, dopamine.
Yeah.
And
it's that vicious cycle, I feel like, with eating, because the more you feel depressed, the more you eat, but then the more you eat, the more you get maybe
fat,
overweight.
The more you feel depressed, the more you eat.
And it just kind of keeps going, and I think that a lot of people can relate to that with other habits and things. And it's weird because we do have control over some things too, right? And right now I could go outside and go into the corner and go scoop some drugs and just become a horrible addict, or something bad could happen in my life and I just start taking drugs and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And so I guess it's interesting how, as much sometimes as drugs or as death is very unpredictable, sometimes it's very predictable, and it's kind of just the habits that we get ourselves into, or the mindset or the self-talk can be very negative, can really destroy you. And I think that's pretty scary in itself, because it's not necessarily an easy, like, quick death, right? You're killing yourself by
slowly.
Yeah.
And because we can't conceptualize each detail in chronological order to a beginning and an end, do we lose the understanding of how detrimental each little time you do it adds up to.
Yeah.
So, you know, that one cigarette every day, oh, it's just a cigarette every day, I'll be fine. You know, you don't understand what I don't even think anyone can really truly understand what 2 months, what a year in retrospect feels like when you can sit back and look at a whole year. Because one, you can't remember. The only way you can honestly remember is if you film yourself every single day, 365 days, almost 24 hours, minus the times that you go to sleep, the times that you're waking. Then you can honestly conceptualize that 365 days, because you'd have to, you know, but you'd spend like a few days, a week or two rewatching every single day. And then, you know, if you really wanted to, then you could look at it. But even then, you can't see the body chemistry that, you know, is going on beneath the surface. You can't see the effects of the cigarette or of the eating that can affect you. And everyone's susceptible to that. You know, it's unfortunate. No one can. But that's like a prevention thing. That's like,
it's so interesting how the human body was made and things like that, because you can't tell. You cannot tell from the outside how, like.
And on top of that, on top of you can't telling, the human body is also doing everything in its power to preserve you, to heal you, to correct things that's wrong. Like you don't know right now if your liver is digesting harmful chemicals that is in your body at the moment, or your bloodstream is, you know, there's like negativity and it's going through, you know, whatever, the kidneys or something to
clear it out,
filter it, right? But it's doing it right now. It's making sure everything's in order. The reason why you feel pain is its sensors, like, oh, something's wrong with your hand, fix it now. That's what it's telling you.
And it's kind of interesting because you see movies and things like with the AI, and they're able to say, the amount of da-da-da is low right now, please, da-da-da. And it's just, I mean, one day maybe we'll be able to regulate our bodies in that way. I mean, we can a little bit to an extent, right? Like blood tests and things like that. This is getting weird, right?
No,
just kind of getting all over the place. But
no, not really, because the more you think about a certain topic, the more you can understand how many topics it really truly touches and how it relates to pretty much, honestly, everything. Everything relates to everything. And it's just a matter of you pointing in and honing in on a specific topic. Does it kind of segregate everything else? But if you really go into that topic, do you ultimately realize that everything else is connected? And it's just something, I guess, to keep in mind, right? Like the reason why, like, you don't go on to the corner and get addicted to drugs is relatable to that instinctual feeling of needing to survive, and needing to survive for what purpose? I'm surviving. My purpose is that I can continue my family generation, my family lineage, and I don't know why I want to continue it. I don't know why I have the urge to continue it if I really think about it, but it's there and it's very strong. And the thought of me not fulfilling that, or not trying to fulfill that innate urge, I just can't. It's like trying to tell a computer not to search, or not to. It's like trying to tell a computer to do something it's not programmed to do. That's the exact thing that I'm trying to reference. Like, you can't tell me. There's nothing you can say that can tell me not to survive to get the next generation of my family line going. And so it's like, the moral is that I'm, you know, going to grow old, and I'm going to hopefully sit there and say, you know, like, my children are adults now and they have kids and they're doing all right, you know, and then I exit the picture, and then they pick up where I left off, hopefully. And whether or not that happens it doesn't matter. I'm just going to do my best, because I can't, it's like, if I think that it's not going to amount to anything, why would I try? But I don't know. Therefore, if I don't know, I'm going to just still pursue that innate urge inside, which is create your family dynamic, make sure that they're good before you leave this earth. And just, you got to keep doing that, because there's nothing else. What else are you going to do, Sam? What else are you honestly going to do? You're going to sit by and you're going to just let life walk on by and not try and actively create a foundation for the next line of your family to live off of? No, you can't. That doesn't compute in my brain. My computing power just doesn't equate. It's it's a piece. I can't do anything with that. Like,
Yeah.
of course I'm going to try. It's in my brain. It's hardwired into me. Maybe it hardwired into my mom, which hardwired into my grandma or my great grandma. Like, all of these hardwires into them. Like, complete the family line. You know, give my son up for adoption because he needs to have the family line has to continue. He needs a better life. Give him up. You know, for me, I need to understand that that's what my mom did, and I need to leave that family, the future family, on a higher pedestal from when I had. And hopefully I know that that innate urge will be in them. It will be in the generations that precede me. Be better than your dad. Be better than your grandpa. You got to keep on the family tradition. And part of that too, that's my obligation, that's my duty, would be to breed that into them as well. Whether or not it's instinctual or whether or not I have to also lead by example, lead by, you know, letting them know that throughout their life. So then they can be like, oh, you know, that's what my dad taught me, or that's what my grandpa taught me. I have to be a like a founding like member. I have to know that I'm a piece of something that is important. And if you even think about deeper than family, it's like the human race in general, and just, you know, being one more component to strengthening the ranks of humanity and giving humanity all of its love and all of its hurt and all of its anger and everything that we are, and continuing that on and on and on. And for what purpose? We have no idea. Like, that's exactly what the poem is, pretty much, kind of like referencing, where it's like, you don't know why you're fighting. If you really strip it all down, all the obligations of family, all the obligations to your loved ones, to friends, you don't know why are you continuing on? Why do you wake up every day and just, you're still here? You know, I don't know, but I just love that, you know. I just love the idea of just like going into a battle, you know, knowing that you're just going to die, but it doesn't matter, because all your buddies, all your squad is right next to you, and you're just going to go in and just take as many as you can, and just try to do everything in your power to complete that mission, regardless of if you ever complete it or not. You're going to go in knowing that you're going to complete it, and that's it. And if you get sniped, it's like 3 steps in, you do. But that mindset was still there, and it was still there from the second you took your last breath. It was there. And then your buddy sees that and says, yo, I'm going to remember you. This one's for you. And goes in and like almost completes the mission. And then their buddy's like, oh, crap. These both guys, they died on the line of battle. I got to finish this mission.
Yeah.
And maybe he finishes it. But me and him, we'll never know.
That's
that
true.
newer future foundation, that generation will know.
Yeah.
We completed it.
Yeah.
Thanks to you, Grandpa. Thanks to you, Great Grandpa, you know?
Yeah.
But you'll never know. But the point is that you set them up. You set up somebody else to live this complete, the idea of being in a completed life. But at the end of the day, it never is, right? Perfection is never perfection. You're always trying to perfect it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
No, it makes sense. It kind of just entails the will to live. It just kind of embodies it, that right there. And it's an interesting thing, you know, to think about, to...
The will to live, knowing that you're going to die.
Yes. And despite how scary that is, to understand what it means.
Yeah. I can't even understand that, and I'm not even really going to try. I'm just going to try and live my life as best as I can, and hope that when the last seconds of my life, I will be in a better place and my family will be in a better place than when I was born. And that's all. That's all she wrote.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking, God, I'm trying not to cry again. I was thinking like how over the summer, about like a year ago, my cousin had sent me this. He wanted to be a rapper, so he's sending me some of his, some of the things that he was doing, and I might not have loved it, But I had, liked it. This was over Facebook, and he had just said, I appreciate you liking it back. He had given me a voice message back, and I appreciate you liking this, and, I've been really scared to do this, and I finally was able to do this, and finally started on something I've always wanted to do. And I guess I'm crying because he didn't get to finish or see it out. And I know when I had told him, every time I had sat down with him and told him what I was doing, when I told him I was coming out to New York, he had said, if anybody can do this, it's you. And how proud he was of me. And I remember looking at him and thinking that he's never going to have that. That he's never going to have, this was before he died, this was years ago, that he's never going to feel fulfilled with himself. That somebody might not look at him and say they're proud of him because of the things that he might have been into or getting into or how he felt about himself. And I guess I'm just crying because of how real that feeling was, how true it is today. It's just as true as it was a few years ago. And that will to maybe not take his line of work, right, because I'm not a rapper, but to take that ethic, to take that, the emotions of fear and kind of trying to get out of it, trying to break that spell as he was, trying to just show what he was, show what he was going to be. And for me to just take that, and maybe, like I said, he didn't get to finish it, but maybe I can embody it.
Yeah.
Maybe I can take that spirit with me as I go. And
that's the way his life can transcend death, is you understanding that and understanding that moment that you had with him. And even after he's gone, you still carry that, and you still carry that legacy and that drive and that passion to fulfill it.
Yeah.
So, you can sit up there one day when you get to where you want to be and say, my cousin was a huge factor throughout my whole life, like throughout my whole journey to get to where to a range of where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could have done it without him. In that retrospect, that feeling of like you said, right, carrying on, right, like that soldier who like got sniped, that like, I'm gonna remember you, and I'm gonna double down, and I'm gonna fight like extra hard now, because what choice do I have? What choice do I have in the sense where I'm not gonna let you go for nothing?
Yeah.
Your death is gonna mean something. So
yeah. I guess that helps. It helps kind of wrap this up. It helps kind of understand that it's not meaningless. And I think that's the scary part, is that I get lost in, is thinking that it's meaningless and not understanding why these things happen. And it gives it purpose. It gives death purpose. And you can only hope that, when you go, right, I can only hope that when I go, somebody can look at me and think that, I can give their life purpose now once I'm gone. Let's wrap it up before I start crying again.
All right, guys. Hope that wasn't too doom and gloom for you, but it's something that I wonder if any of you also think about too, which is the life and death and how it affects you, and the transitions and transcendences, but on future generations, and if you guys even think about that. But again, I thank you guys for bearing with us and hearing what we have to say in our minds. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great night, great morning, or a great day whenever you're watching this or listening to it. And we bid you farewell. So we'll catch you next time on another episode of Life of the Lost. Peace.